Thank you so much for joining me here at the live desk. I am Janae Hancock. It is August 9th, and we are going beyond the headlines right now. And we're actually talking about some financial advice. Some alarming numbers were just released this week. And with that being said, I do want to turn things straight over to Nathan Mauck. He is a finance professor at UMKC. Nathan, I want to thank you so much for joining me at the live desk. And this is a timely interview, so thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, I want to jump straight into it, Nathan. For those who do not know, new data was just released this week, and I do want to start off with this. So, Americans' credit card debt just hit a record high for the first time ever, $1 trillion to be exact. Can you speak a little bit more and break it down for us? What does this mean?
I think what you see is a product definitely of rising costs, inflation that has started to really hit folks' spending. And then also, I think it is sort of a symptom of the fact that many folks in the US do not really have a budget or really stick to a budget. And so, a lot of times, any sort of extra unplanned costs get dumped onto a credit card balance, and that can really snowball and get out of control in a hurry.
And so, what advice do you have for people who don't have a budget right now? And we are coming up on some significant deadlines. So, students are going back to school, but then we also have student loan payments that are going to be due once again. And then the holidays are just around the corner. So, what advice do you have for people who do not currently have a budget right now?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just to start. And the best way to start, I think, is to really get a clear idea of where your money is going. Step one is to really identify every dollar, usually over like a month period of time is the best way to do it. You can use credit card statements, bank statements, any place you've got money going out, and really look at where the money's going. And then also doing this over time, even if folks maybe have had a budget in the past, it's probably worth taking a look again if you haven't recently, because costs have gone up. And so you might have to change some priorities and make some adjustments to what you've done historically based on how prices have changed over the last year or so.
Where do you see people putting most of their money right now, especially on their credit cards? Where do you see that going? Because I know you mentioned prices are going up for a lot of different things right now.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on the budget, certainly. A few things that stand out to me. One, if you've purchased a home, relatively recently, interest rates are quite a bit higher than they were, for the better part of a decade when we had a lot lower rates. So folks in that category feeling the pinch there. Interest rates in general higher. So any debt payments that folks have or any new debt they have really adding to that. And then the cost of, a lot of things has gone up pretty substantially. And so, to the extent that wages haven't always kept up with that, you've got kind of a collapsing, even if you had a little bit of slack in a budget before, that gap closing maybe has closed and moved in the other direction. And a lot of folks, I think, putting that on their credit card, which is potentially risky.
And another study, Nathan, that we talked about earlier, but that was also released this week, is that people are now pulling money out of their 401k plans. What do you advise as far as that? Do you suggest that people do that? Or if you don't, what do you suggest that people do?
Not a great idea to pull from a 401k. You get taxed on that a lot of times, unless you prove some sort of hardship and your plan allows that. You get an extra 10% tax, even in addition to the regular tax. So very costly money to pull out from a 401k, and it's a little bit like chopping down your house for firewood. You can maybe keep the fire going for a little bit longer, but now you've created a hole in your house. And so, creating a hole in one area of your financial life to try to bridge the gap somewhere else is a tough game to play and doesn't really solve the underlying problem. And I mean, really, the only solution is to consistently spend less than a person makes, and some combination of additional income and lower spending is really the way to do that. And, for folks who aren't in that situation but might be concerned about it, one thing I always recommend is you really need, a safety net, some sort of rainy day fund. And if you have that in the amount of maybe up to 3 to 6 months of your expenses, that really is the best way to fund these surges in prices, these back to school expenses, these unexpected car repair bills, those types of things.
All righty, there you have it. This is Nathan Muck. He is a finance professor with UMKC. And Nathan, I just want to thank you so much for joining me here at the Live Desk and giving these tips. This has been very alarming this week, these studies that have dropped. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and do this interview.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Of course. Well, we will continue to provide you all with news updates throughout the day today. And our 4 p.m. newscast is coming up in just a few hours. So be sure to tune in to that.